all the questions in this emergency. I want to bring in David Guggenheim, a marine scientist and conservationist who pilots these small submersibles capable of descending thousands of feet. David, thank you for being with me. As a pilot of one of these submersibles, I want, if you can, for you to take me inside this minivan-sized submersible and tell me what you think. Stockton Rush, the CEO, and P.H. Ashleigh, the pilot, what are they doing to counsel the others inside the vessel to survive this?
Well, the type of subs that I have piloted are one-person subs, so the configuration's much different, and the subs that I pilot also go much shallower, about 2,000 or 3,000 feet, which makes it easier to communicate with the surface. But I think what you would be doing, and of course it depends on the current scenario, is obviously trying to keep life support functional. Now, if, say, there were a fire or electrical problem, that could very much hamper the scrubbers that remove carbon dioxide from the air, and they would need to improvise on that. You would also have no light, and it would be completely dark. Your eyes would never adjust. There's no light at that depth. So repairs would be very, very difficult. I think they would be doing everything in their power to just stay calm, breathe as little oxygen as possible, and try to work the problem and do a self-rescue.
One of the experts I spoke with, David, suggested that they would all be in a meditative state to try to conserve oxygen, breathe slower, and that one by one they might take turns banging on the side of the vessel so as to maybe be caught by the sonar buoys above. Does that sound like it's a legitimate strategy?
Yes, I think it makes sense. This is under the scenario that the sub is on the bottom, and one of the things we're trained for is the biggest threats, especially entanglement. So if the sub's somehow entangled and can't free itself, all it can do is wait on the bottom, and that would be the way you would conserve resources. And banging on the side is one of the best ways, I think, to communicate to the outside that you're still alive, you're still here, and you need help.
So can I ask you, and I think this is sort of new territory for a lot of us, if they are alive, and if this is a snag, and they haven't lost all, their electrical system, et cetera, it would be a perfect storm to have lost their comms at the same time as being snagged in a fishing net or on the debris of the Titanic. Wouldn't we have heard by now if they're banging on the side of the vessel?
It's very possible. It depends on what listening devices, what sonar receivers have been deployed so far. It's also very tricky with the way acoustics are in the ocean. I've lost communications with the surface on my dives just because ocean conditions change. You're not using a radio wave like you would with a regular radio. You're using acoustics, and those acoustics get distorted in the water. The other possibilities, if they were entangled and the sub were somehow on its side, the transducer, which needs to point up toward the surface, could be pointing sideways, and there would be no way to get a signal through. So, I mean, we're speculating. There are many, many different possibilities. A lot of it involves working the problem, as I said, but if you're, for example, entangled, or if you've had an electrical fire, these are two of the things that they train you for, the things that you're most prepared for, but also some of the most difficult problems to solve.
Can I ask you, I mean, the multiple waivers that you have to sign to be a passenger on board this ship, it's pretty darn clear. This experimental vessel has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body. No one is, unaware of the extraordinary risks of doing this kind of exploration. Is it the same? I mean, for those who are critical, is it not the same as space travel or climbing Everest? It is people who take on these extreme risks to find out more about who we are and where we live.
Yes, I mean, I don't object at all to the idea of tourism going to the Titanic or to see the deep sea. I think the more people we get into this incredible frontier that we have and that has barely been explored, I think that's a great thing. But if you ignore safety, and it's going to come back to bite you. And I think, as Captain Walsh said earlier, it tarnishes the reputation of all the other programs that are going on. I have never felt unsafe in a sub because I know these are Canadian subs. I know they're built well. I know they've had third-party inspection and certification. I joke that I feel more safe in one of these subs than I do in traffic in the DC Beltway.
Well, I will only say to that, you have guts of steel. I have always felt scared, just snooba. But David Guggenheim, thank you for your expertise. We'll touch base with you again on this. And again, we are praying that there is a positive outcome in this. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.